This is All of It on WNYC. I'm Tiffany Hansen in for Allison Stewart. A new documentary called The Chaplain and the Doctor aims to model a, quote, new kind of care, one that honors the bodies and spirits of patients from all backgrounds. It's a tall order for the two women who are at the heart of the film. The chaplain is Betty Clark, an 80-year-old Black woman who is part of the palliative care team at Highland Hospital in Oakland, California. The doctor in the film is Jessica Zitter, a white Jewish physician who works alongside Chaplain Clark, and they've been working together for over a decade. Highland Hospital is Oakland's only public hospital and, according to the filmmakers, serves one of the most diverse populations in the country. The film explores medical racism, end-of-life care, and what it means to be fully engaged with people who are suffering. The Chaplain and the Doctor premieres tonight at the Angelica Film Center here in Soho. Chaplain Clark and Dr. Zitter join us now to discuss. Welcome, ladies. So glad you're here.
So glad to be here.
And listeners, we'd love for you to join the conversation as well. Have you had experiences with loved ones in palliative care? What did you encounter? What were the challenges? And where did you find some compassion in the process? You can call us. You can text us 212-433-9692, 212-433 WNYC. Betty, can I call you Betty?
Yes.
Okay, good. After seeing the film, first of all, I hope it was okay to tell everyone you're 80.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
81.
81 now. 81. Congratulations. Yes. All right. Chaplains don't normally pair up with doctors in a hospital setting. So just tell us how you two came to start working together.
Well, when I came on to the palliative care team, I had been a hospice chaplain for 16 years. Mm-hmm. And in hospice, you're a chaplain, but you're not really a colleague. You don't go out with the doctor or the social worker or the nurse. Everyone sort of goes alone to see patients. So in the hospital, it was the first time that I was on a team. And it was rewarding to be a part of a team, but it was also difficult because even in palliative care, the doctors didn't see the chaplain as important. And when Jessica and I teamed up, that changed a lot.
Not at first, though, right, Jessica? Because you say in the film that initially you would leave the room when the chaplain would come in or start praying, or you would kind of duck out.
Yeah, I mean, what Betty says is, again, in theory, palliative care teams are very interprofessional and non-hierarchical, but I would basically argue that we do have a hierarchy even on the palliative care team, and I think that was what was manifesting with me, that I did not see the value of praying or of spiritual attention, and I thought that what I was doing was more important.
Had you become sort of accustomed to that, your job is your job and my job is my job, Betty? Did you kind of write it off as the way things were? Or were you always kind of hopeful that maybe things could change?
Well, as I said, when I came on to the palliative care team, there was another doctor there, and she was leading the team. And she said to me, "You are a colleague." And I took that to heart. And for me, it didn't matter what the other doctors thought. It was more important what I thought about myself. And my family felt really good about, now you're being respected. You're being seen as professional. And so I carried myself that way. And I think it's hard for someone to put you down if you haven't put yourself down. And so because of that, it was easier for me to begin the work with Jessica and to see her in the light maybe that she hadn't yet seen me, but to see myself in that light. And so because of that, it grew. And
I think it might be helpful for listeners for us to just start by talking about the first patient that we encounter in the film, who is Naomi. She is a young Black woman with severe lupus. Jessica, when we first see Naomi, she's really suffering. She's angry. She's frustrated. Tell us about how you first responded to that frustration from her.
Well, I think you can see it in the film. I was defensive. I was stressed. I felt that she was attacking me when I was really trying to do my best. I hadn't met her yet. I was just coming to see her this first time. And I kind of pulled back. And if you can actually see in the film, I'm sort of standing there and Betty goes in and I'm kind of standing at the edge of the door. And I think, if I didn't have Betty next to me, if I didn't have a film crew at my back, I don't know what I would have done. And I will say that a lot of times we sort of, what I would say, quote unquote, round from the door when we feel uncomfortable with a patient. We sort of hold back, we stay, we keep a little distance. It might be because they're angry. It might be because they're somebody that we're afraid of. There's so many reasons, but I think it's a real problem.
Betty, there is another doctor who gives a consult at some point in the film, and I can't remember the name of that person. But there is a sense for the viewer at least for this viewer, that doctor is pretty dismissive of Naomi and her frustration and her anger. And to me, it almost felt like Naomi was being dehumanized. So I had a reaction to that. What was your reaction to that?
My reaction was that no one was really seeing her need, nor were they seeing what the hospital had done to her. It was not, oh, I'm so sorry, we shouldn't have done this. They didn't want to own. The hospital didn't want to own. The doctors didn't want to own the fact that they had put this person in this position, and she was supposed to just be happy about it. And so for me, it was like, we have to look at what's going on with her and her feelings. And I say about chaplains, we are wounded healers. And so that means that we have to not dismiss our own cares, our own problems, our own things that have happened to us and see others through those eyes. And I've had my share of being dismissed by doctors. So I can see it clearer, I think, than some people.
Jessica, we had a woman on this show, I don't know, a couple months ago probably, who went through medical school, wrote a memoir. It's a graphic novel. It's not a novel. It's a memoir about the process of becoming a doctor. And one of the things that she talks a lot about is the medical racism and the dehumanization that is almost taught. And I just wonder I just wanted to get your impression of that based on not only what we saw with Naomi, but just in terms of like how you came up and how you came through medical school and how you see that manifesting in these kinds of situations.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the big themes in this film is sort of showing the hierarchy, and then showing what happens when you dissolve the hierarchy and you cross silos to really let someone else in. And I think that medical training currently, again, on average, really allows doctors to think that they're the most important person in the room. And there's something about it that is sort of really taught. I mean, I think many of us come into medicine to be there to heal patients. And what we end up sort of doing is getting this whole sort of armor of defenses around us that I think really cause serious problems.
Part of Naomi's frustration, this patient that we're talking about that you feature in the film who has severe lupus, she's a young Black woman. Part of her frustration stems from the fact, I think, that she doesn't trust doctors. And so, Betty, I wonder how you can explain for us that mistrust.
Well, it happens unfortunately, for people of color, especially African Americans, from earliest experience with doctors. We're dismissed. Our parents are dismissed, or they're told things that are just not true. They're assumed. I'm a great grandmother, and my daughter was taking her grandchildren to the doctor, and the doctor said, "Oh, well, you have to be careful because they're going to be obese." Well, I mean, no, they're not, and it's just that what we see, what people see on TV, what they hear, what they read about, just gets into people's psyches, and then they begin to judge people by what they don't know, but what they think they know. And I've talked to medical students who are seniors, and it's amazing. I think that the young doctors are not exposed enough to the world outside of their own world.
Do you think part of your job is to empower a patient in that moment if you're there for it? You might not be, but if you're there for it.
A lot of the times I can do that. I can answer their questions because they'll say, well, the doctor came in and they said, we're going to give you this medicine. If that doesn't work, we're going to give you something else. And if that doesn't work, and then when the doctor leaves, they'll turn to me and say, are they experimenting on me? Or the doctors will say, well, we're not going to offer this medication to you. I mean, and so the patient then says, well, are they going to offer it to someone else and not, why won't they offer it to me? So they're already feeling judged and misjudged because that's the world they've come up in. That's the world they've lived in. They've experienced it. The doctors may not mean it. Even the palliative care team, and I've said to our team, some of the verbiage, like, oh, we're worried and we're hoping. And when they leave, the family has said, we don't want to hear about their worries. We got worries of our own. We don't want to know what they're hoping for. What we want to know is what do they know and what is it they don't know. Mm-hmm. But we think we're being kind by not telling them this is this, and just say, well, we're worried that this medication is not going to work or it's not working.
Jessica, one of the things that I was really struck by in this process in watching Naomi's story kind of unfold is your ability as a physician in a hospital setting to chase down doctors, to chase down social workers, to get people to answer the phone. How many times patients have said, I just wish my doctor would answer this question for me. I just wish my doctor would stop by my room. And what I felt was and I hope you don't take this the wrong way, a real privilege for you to be able to get an answer. And how frustrating that must be for people. They're glad that you got them the answer, right? But they're also probably frustrated. And I just wonder if you boil that down, if it comes down to an issue of respect.
I think it comes down to an issue of respect. I think it comes down to an issue of hierarchy. I think it comes down to an issue of implicit bias. I think we have, one of the things we're raised up with as we become doctors is this sense of needing to know things, needing to know the diagnosis, needing to not be uncertain, needing to know what kind of person this is, what kind of person that is. I think that's part of the training of being a doctor. And yes, it comes with a serious privilege of many things, but including this idea of being able to get information. And it makes me shudder to think how blocked the typical patient is from sort of accessing that world of knowledge. And it's really heartbreaking.
Betty, we talk about taking care of the mind and the body in this film. What does getting those concrete answers do for someone's mindset?
It makes them feel that they have been heard, that they matter. It really gets into their spirits. We think that the body, the physical, is what's being cared for. But if the spirit is disturbed and troubled and feeling disrespected and uncared for, the body is also reacting to that. So I do tell the patients, ask the doctor to tell you, speak for yourself. You can do that. You can ask them. And I have patients say, well, they come in and they're talking because we are a teaching hospital. And so the doctors come in with a team and they're talking to each other. And this one patient said, and I said, hey, I'm here. I can hear you. Tell me what you're talking about me. And sometimes they just dismiss the patient. Mm-hmm. So when the patient feels that the doctors are listening to them, that the doctors will respond to them, it affects not just their body, but it also affects their spirit.
Betty, I think we know probably what Jessica's primary job is when she comes in. She's a doctor, right? What do you think your I know it's different from each patient to patient, room to room, situation to situation, but if somebody were to say, Betty, what's your job?
First of all, to listen and to observe. So I'm listening to the doctor. I'm watching the patient's response and reaction. I'm watching the doctor, so I'm gathering information without saying anything. And so I'm in the background because doctors come in, they have a time limit, they have things they have to do, and they have to say it. I say, chaplains, we don't have an agenda. So we come in, the patient is our agenda. And so I'm watching. Then I know when, and sometimes I'll say to the doctor, are you finished? And when they say yes, then I know what to say and what to do for the doctor and the patient at that time.
Mm. You both come with ancestral trauma in your families. You both come with personal trauma. Jessica, how does that inform your work?
Completely deeply. I think that my own sense of trauma, my own experiences have made me want to be a kind and healing presence. And so I think what happened when I met Betty at first was jarring, but eventually helped to guide me back to the place I want to be. And I would say that even though Betty and I are from such incredibly different lives, professions, lived experience, background, I think we have very similar values.
Betty, do you think your trauma gives you a perspective that is useful in those rooms with those people?
Yes, I say that my pits, that's the trauma in my life, has influenced my purpose and has equipped me for seeing other people who are in pit-like situations, have come through those things, and I don't see them as druggies or alcoholics or angry people.
One of the moments that I remember that has kind of stuck with me is I don't remember who recalled it of you two, but there was a moment when Jessica referred to a gunshot victim as a gangbanger. And you had a reaction to that. I thought of it because you just said druggies, made me think of that. What did you think in that moment?
Well, those are labels that we put on people without knowledge. And whoever, it happens sometimes, it's in a chart. And they haven't gotten the story. So you don't know what happened to that person. And if I have a second, I'll tell you, there was a young man in the hospital, and he told me they were treating him like he was a gangbanger. But really what happened, he worked his way through his community in spite of the gangs and everything, and he made it out of there and graduated from high school, got a job at the post office. And the person who was the leader of the gang shot him just on the freeway driving. He said, I looked across and I knew what was going to happen. And he's a paralytic because of that. And so the hospital just treated him like he was a gangbanger, and he wasn't. And he was crying because they wouldn't give him enough pain medicine and was treating him unfairly.
How did that make you feel?
Made me feel like I had to do something, so I did.
So
I made sure
Betty stood up.
I made sure he got medication, and I got his story, and I shared his story. That's one thing that I think has happened. When I share the story, it changes people because they don't get the story. Once a person gets the story, then they see the patient in a different light.
We only have a little bit of time left, unfortunately. Jessica, you are also the director of this film. My initial reaction was like, how does she have time? But as the director of the film, for our last moments here, what do you hope folks take away when they go tonight to the Angelica Film Center and see the movie?
I hope they laugh, and I hope they cry, and I hope that they feel inspired. There's going to be a lot of healthcare providers and professionals there. I hope that it helps them just a little bit to tweak the way they see things and the way they see themselves and the way they see their practice. And ultimately, we want to create curricula to really get in there into the medical schools, et cetera, so that we can start to shift the culture.
Do you view that as an obligation you have to shift the culture?
Absolutely. It's part of our nonprofit, Real Medicine Media, is all about trying to shift culture in healthcare.
The film is called The Chaplain and the Doctor. It premieres tonight at the Angelica Film Center here in Soho. We've been talking with Chaplain Betty Clark, and Dr. Jessica Zitter about the film. best of luck. We really appreciate the time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You've been listening to All of It. I'm Tiffany Hansen in for Allison Stewart today. She will be back tomorrow. Fear not. Allison Stewart is produced by Kate Hines, Jordan Loff, Simon Close, Zach Goddard-Cohen, El Malik Anderson, Luke Green, and Sasha Cohen. Meg Ryan is the head of Live Radio.